Hi, Hanky Pysanky here. Today I am working on a Celtic Cross emu egg. Now eventually we're going to get something similar to this. This is a finished one that's been varnished with a very tacky varnish. I need to work on that a little bit more. And then I've got a second one that's further along that has about 2 more steps of etching to get where we're going. But I'm doing this specifically so that I remember how to do these tricky infinity knots with the circles, because I keep forgetting every time I come back to it. So this is the last one, so I hopefully have fairly perfected the process and how I'm working with this. Now the nice thing is this has been through 1 step of etching. It's been through about an hour and a half of etching in just straight up vinegar. This egg is still intact, so it is full, it is very heavy, and I'm planning on eating it when I'm done. So I'm just using food grade vinegar to etch it so that I don't do any damage to the egg inside, because I don't want to eat something that's been possibly contaminated with toilet bowl cleaner or muriatic acid. So I'm refinding the center line here so that I can make sure everything's centered. You know, of course it was centered a long time ago, but then I etched away all of my guidelines. And over here, there. And because this is so heavy, I can't really hold it very long. It would get exhausting. So it's on a turntable, on basically a Lazy Susan, with a very low bean bag, and then a couple of cloths, just really easily washable face cloths, hand towels, so that I can take these out, throw them in the washing machine, and keep them nice and clean. Oh no. So that's center line, and then approximately about there should be my midline. And then this suction cup has already been divided out on a template. And it's big. I'm not actually going to be doing any circles this big. This is mostly for centering my circle in this open space, because there is a fair amount of open space. And then I'll give myself my half lines and my quarter lines, although I don't think I actually need them for this. I started out doing them just as a default. Don't need them. Do need the half line. Give a little crosshair. And it's interesting, this particular panel, you can see the other ones are a lot lighter. I messed up on it the first time around, so then I went and sanded it off, and for some reason sanding it made it a lot darker again. So then I washed it again with vinegar to try and lighten it up a little bit, just so that I could see my pencil lines better. It didn't work so great. Okay, so that gives me my crosshairs. And then this will be the largest outside circle for that. I just do one guideline, and then I wax inside it and outside it. And this will be reference point for the corners. And this little guy will be my inner circle. Yeah. most of these pencil lines will etch off, or they'll come off with a wax if there's wax on top of it. Great. Okay, so I've got a nice little center bullseye. And then I've been cheating and I made myself a little foam template because it was a tiny bit easier than measuring things out. And I'm going to do it on the second circle. I'm going to try to get the points to hit on corners of that second circle. It's already been measured. Then I'm just going to make sure that this is parallel. That gets me about 3 to the inside line. Not. Okay, so the corners are in. The bottom should be a little closer because of the curve of the egg. Okay. Got that corner, got that corner. And I got this corner. And the corners are the most important part of this triangle. Then, to do the curves, just using an overly large circle template, where the curve will intersect with 2 of the points and come fairly close but not actually overlapping the center point. I'll do it with this side. It's not working so great, is it? And the last one. Now with smaller designs, I just freehand this stuff. With the bigger ones, it's pretty obvious if a curved line doesn't have the right curve. So I want them to be uniform. And I think this template's actually too big because I just ended up with really loose. So I'm going to redo this a little bit just based on actual location. It's very hard to see these lines, isn't it? I don't think that's going to help much. No. Outer. Oh, really shouldn't be that far in. Needs to be well outside of this, but still within there. Okay. Here. And then because these are super hard to see, I'm also going to use a marker that's going to give it this pink. Now this marker, I definitely don't want it to show up later on. So I'm just going to do reminders to myself of which parts of the circle I need to keep, both inside and outside. And then I'll also do reminders of where the overlaps are. So this will be the high part, the overs. over there, over here, and over here. This goes over, this goes over. And then for these, this is over, this is over, and this is over. Okay, that is pretty messy. Let's see if I can figure it out when it comes to wax. And here I'm using a heavy electric for all of these lines. With the roughness and the pebbliness, I actually should probably have used an extra heavy Kiska, I'm thinking, to get thicker lines, heavier lines, but heavy's what I've got, and some Green Envy wax, which is just a little bit extra sticky for all the etching that's happening, because I don't want all my lines to fall off. And a little lint-free glove. Okay. I'm going to start out with all the overs, all of the lines that if it were rope would be going over other bits of the rope. And round that back down. And then the inner circle, and one of the things I really like about this design is that if you think of lines not as the lines of wax, but as the lines of what's inside the wax, none of them ever start or end. None of them have end points or beginning points. They all just kind of loop continuously through each other. So there's no beginnings and no ends, and that's why it's called an infinity knot. Well, this one is an infinity knot. And the center is a heart knot, and then the borders or the bands are just sort of basic continuing knots. You can see the turntable is really helpful for doing circles and curves. And then I can close up the rest of these lines. And I'm making sure that all the lines join the next one, so I don't have gaps, which won't become super obvious until it's been etched, until it's too late to fix it. It's one of the disadvantages of working with green wax on a green eggshell, It's really tough to see holidays until you've moved on significantly. So there is, oh, and those points are really uneven. They are not on the same circle at all. Oh well. And that's going to be super obvious as I do this inside circle, or as I do the outer circle. What would be the outer circle? These two are significantly outside, and that one is the only one that's right where I want it. So do I leave them where they are, or do I try to fix it? I'm going to try to fix it. Try to scrape off some of this wax. And because I'm doing so much mistake fixing here, I'll probably etch this only for maybe 30 minutes. See how it's going, do a little more scraping, instead of doing a full up hour, which would be the next step. Okay, and that one. That one's okay. I think this one was the worst. All right. Then where should this be? Where this should be is right about here. I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. That looks much better. This one's still a little long. But I think that's okay. Maybe that's why I don't work with the extra heavy, because even the heavy one blobs on me sometimes. Right after I put wax in. Probably because I'm messy. Oh, no, that is actually too short. I was looking at the wrong circle. I'm glad I didn't make that one shorter, or it would have been really short. Sometimes it's hard to remember which of the concentric circles I'm actually working with. Scraping here. Aw. Those lines don't connect. Wasn't paying attention. Fudge it that way. All right. Well, it ain't perfect. The corners overlap at different amounts. Here, wow, same issue. But as you can see, it's wicked hard to see the guidelines. So one of the great things about emu eggs is that they're great for etching because you have a very good guideline of how deep you're going by the color changing, which you don't get with rhea eggs, right? You know, if you're etching a rhea or a goose or an ostrich egg, it's kind of hard to tell how deep you've gone until you actually take it out and, I don't know, stick a toothpick in there or whatever. But with emu eggs, you've got a very clear visual guide as to how deep you've gone by what the color change. Now, that also means that working on the outer layers, it's really hard to see guidelines. So I use the white pencil for the first one. I mean, the darkest outside, but it's still harder to see than regular pencil lines. All right, I'm gonna go put this in vinegar for a while.